Welcome to this edition of Matters. Today, we've chosen the topic of looking back at the history of retail or take-home in the salon industry and looking forward to the future of it. In recent conversations with salon owners, this seems to be a topic that's at the top of mind for everyone right now in our industry, partially because of the way the industry has changed, and salon owners are looking for who to align themselves with, who they feel that can take them to the next level of their business. And so we're going to look at how we got to where we're at as quickly as possible. But I had this conversation recently with PSC's top independent salon, and it really was an enlightening conversation. We were looking at her business and the front of the salon and the way retail and take-home and display was done and the involvement or connection that her staff had with the various brands in their salon. And I think you'll find it to be an interesting exercise as we go through it.
Well, also to add, we were in front of this entire staff prior to your conversation with the owner, and the owner wasn't present, so the staff was very honest and very comfortable speaking to us. And one of the young stylists raised her hand and said, I'm just a little bored. I'm a little flat. I'm not enjoying that side of the business right now. I go up to the front and it just doesn't excite me. And we had to give her the big lecture about it's your job to stay connected and it's your job to stay excited. But some of these things that you're going to be talking about could be reasons why it is a little flat and has created a little bit of a lazy environment.
Yes. Before we go into that, though, Terry, you always, one of the things you responded to the young lady that day with was your story about Donna Karan and her mascara.
Oh, well, not Donna Karan, Bobbi Brown. But I like Donna Karan, too. Bobbi Brown is the line of makeup that I enjoy and use. And I always think about when hairdressers talk about that they're not excited about the products that they're representing any longer, or it's a little dull, a little flat, I think of Bobbi Brown. Can you imagine if Bobbi said, you know what, I'm just not into these mascaras anymore, or my eyeshadows, I'm bored with those. It's our job, and I would expect Bobbi Brown to embrace her line. And you might say that's because she owns it. If you're responsible for conveying a message and having people follow your professional recommendation, it's your job to love it every day, and it's your job to be excited about it. And you don't have the luxury of ever not saying or actually saying that you're not enjoying what's up front, because you just give permission for the customer to purchase somewhere else.
Exactly. So how did we get to where we're at today in take-home or retail? I can remember back to first coming into this industry as a young young salesperson. What we would see in salons at that point really was we would see usually retail hairspray, we would see rain hats, satin pillowcases, and comb air lifter combs. That really was the extent of the retail business, because at that time, all of the color, all of the styling, all of the conditioning.
I just realized how much older you are than me.
I must be way older. Or at least I got into the industry before you did.
That's good. Okay.
As we take a look at how the industry has evolved, at that time, the retail market for shampoos really was through the drugstores and grocery stores and et cetera. And the market was split between salon and non-salon. In other words, the people who went to salons, you cared for their every need when it came to hair care. At that time, the 50% or greater that didn't go to salons, that shampooed at home, that perhaps conditioned at home, or that used hairsprays on their own and the likes, they bought from the retail market exclusively. In the 1960s, when Vidal Sassoon came along with Paul Mitchell, and changed the way the industry works to where we saw a client or a guest once every 4 to 6 weeks instead of every week, it brought about some changes in our industry. One of the key changes that it brought about was that the guest had to care for their hair in between salon visits. They did their hair sometimes 28 or 30 times more than what you did as a professional. So the need to have take-home hair care products available on your shelf and the professional need to recommend those products became inevitable. There was a company that came to the forefront at that time, and that company chose to teach hairdressers what was called the scientific approach to hair care. And it was really all based around hair chemistry, and it was based around making hair care so difficult and therefore establishing the need for a hairdresser to make their professional recommendation. In retrospect, what I see was it brought about a connection between hairdressers and that brand that subsequented in a connection between the hairdresser, the guest, and that brand. What took place over the next 25 to 30 years was a shift in the hair care market, whereby salons became retailers that one hairdresser at a time changed the take-home industry. All of a sudden, hairdressers choosing one guest at a time to make the proper recommendation of home hair care became the part of the business that grew. We went from 0 market share to significant market share. During the last 5 to 6 years, in fact, our section of the market is the only section of the market that was growing. The retail and specialty store section of the market was flat and declining. That, to me, just accents the power of the hairdresser standing behind the chair, doing what's right, and recommending a home care regimen. In the years that took place, what happened was retail became a very important piece of the profit structure of the professional salon. Much of what the salon was able to do from an employee benefit standpoint, from a training standpoint, from a decor standpoint, was all made possible through the profits from take-home products. So there's significance. I mean, we've seen in salons, we've seen upwards of 70% of their profit before income tax coming from take-home hair care sales. So that the take-home business is a key part of the salon business right now is that it kind of goes without saying, but it remains a bit of a mystery right now. I think that most of the salon owners that I've talked to recently are looking to do the right thing. They're looking to make the next move. And how do we take-home hair care to the next level? What we've done over the past several years is that salons that became successful with take-home started saying, okay, if I can sell this brand, I can sell brand number 2, brand number 3, brand number 4, brand number 5. And every time I take on a brand as a salon owner, I think that I'm going to be appealing to a larger percentage of what the industry sometimes calls the unbuyer.
Or they're also thinking, I'll keep my staff excited.
Right. They want to keep the staff, and by keeping them excited, they keep them enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
They keep them connected.
Into something.
Right. What we found is that the salons in adding brands and really by that way trying to keep the excitement and connection of their hairdressers, keeping them enrolled in the take-home sales business, sometimes what they've done is they've actually taken on so many lines. The average salon today, I believe, carries about 10 or 11 different brands of products in the front of their salon. And what we see happen is the stylists segment themselves. If you have 10 stylists in a salon and you've got 10 or 11 lines, I can promise you that if you go through and do a survey of what your staff is using and what they're recommending, you'll find stylists 1 and 2 will recommend one line, maybe 3 and 4 will recommend another, and so on as you go through the salon.
Well, that usually equates to confidence. This same salon that we were in front of, the young lady raised her hand also and said, I'm not familiar with this certain line that we have in the salon. Well, being that we represent that line, we know that line was present to that staff for over a year. How can you have an employee be permitted to be on staff and not take responsibility for becoming the expert to that line in your salon for over a year? That's a management problem, that's a staffing problem, that's a training problem, because that's a commitment to say, I will not be talking about this to my guests.
Well, Terry, it's also almost a white noise problem. And what I mean by that is there's so much information coming at the hairdressers in the average salon today, especially if they're carrying 8 to 10 lines, that it becomes almost as if it's white noise. They hear it, but they don't hear it. And therefore, when they don't hear it, they don't know it, and they're not confident to talk about it with their guests. It's almost impossible to ask hairdressers to be expert in 10 or 11 or 12 brands of products in the front. And so I want to hold that thought and say this is where we've gotten to in the salon industry from a take-home standpoint. Now let's look at the retail side. We said that they were flat. The grocery stores, specialty markets, the Walmarts of the world, they have found their brands to be flat over the last 8 to 10 years. What did they do in response? They very systematically did several things, and I want to outline them for you. The first thing that they did was they made the distinction that the retail consumer would pay more if they perceived quality. They would pay more one bottle at a time if they perceived quality. So one of the things that they did, if you think back to the retail market, there used to be a lot of 5 and 7 ounce bottles sold on the grocery store shelves. They immediately increased their size because most salon bottles were 8 and 16 ounce and all the way up to 32 that sell frequently. They raised their size of the bottle. They raised the price of the bottle. They felt if they were going to have a declining market share, they had to have an increased margin to still grow their business and answer to their shareholders. The second thing that they did is they felt that the market was saying that the professional recommendation, the appearance of a hairdresser's endorsement of a brand was key to growth. So a lot of the retail brands tried to align themselves either in reality or in a mythical way to a hairdresser. There were brands such as Salon Selectives that really came to the marketplace and tried to say that they were the product of choice, that they'd been tested and they were the choice in salons, and it's available on the retail shelf. A brand such as Tresemme from Alberto Culver with the mythical hairdresser Alberto. Mm-hmm. Again, there was a little white line on the top of the TV that said dramatization because there really was no Alberto. And so what they did was they tried to look more like a salon.
Creating the illusion of.
The other thing that they did was they said, we've got to play on the other side of that market. So the big companies on the retail side, whether it be the L'Oreals or the Procter & Gamble's, said we need to buy into the segment of the market that's growing. Therefore, they went out and purchased salon-only brands to add to their war chest. So that now they were actively playing on all sides, not just both sides, but on all sides of the hair care market. So that if the salon brand continued to grow, great. They're doing a good job for their stockholders. If the retail side or the specialty store or the department store side started to grow again and gain market share, they played in that arena. So what we had was we had the retail companies very systematically buying and managing brands for the sole purpose of growth. And we had salons who thought that by adding brands to the front of their store, they would be successful and would grow. And quite honestly, that's what I want to spend more time on because we've blurred the line between retail and professional.
Okay.
We've blurred the line because retail stores trying to look like salons, salons evolving to look more like retail stores. The real hazard of a salon looking more like a retail store is that you lose the professional endorsement and the professional recommendation. Mm-hmm. And so our conversation today is going to be talking about what the future of take-home is, how to manage it, how to think about it, and how to create the connections necessary.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Terry, you went through a lot of that as a consumer prior to getting into this industry. From the customer standpoint, how would you as a customer look at salon retail and retail over the last quite a few years?
Well, before I got into the industry, I was a consumer that was very committed to my salon. The salon never tried to convince me or give me a professional recommendation on the products that I should be enjoying. If they displayed well, I might be drawn to it, but I purchased on my own, very much like I was in a grocery store. So what scares me about that is that's still happening today, and that was 15 or 16 years ago. We haven't gotten smarter. We think the consumer shopping in an area for her hair care is knowledgeable enough, hair savvy enough to be able to make the best decision for her hair. She's not. Why look like a retail location by not letting the professional talk about what they do. That doesn't make sense to me. The most beautiful thing about a salon is there's a professional that can say, this is what you need. Let me help you with your product wardrobe. Let me help you with your product mix. And because they have their hands in hair every day, you know that you're getting the right decision and the right recommendations for your hair. For a salon not to take advantage of that license to do that is silly.
Good. One of the things I heard when you said that was that you were a purchaser, you were a shopper in a salon before it was popular, but because hairdressers weren't making the recommendations of the brands.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what happens when a hairdresser becomes overwhelmed with the product that's up front. We've talked about that a little bit already.
Well, they even admit to the customer, I know nothing about those products. Can you imagine what the customer hears during that?
Yeah. But I can also imagine, from the salon owner standpoint, and those of you listening, please ask yourself the question, how did you get what you've gotten? If you look through the front of your salon and you see many brands, it was interesting sitting with the salon owner because really all of their brands that they had there came from our company as a distributor. And we consider them to be the very, very finest account, and we love them, and they love our brands. But when we had to really take inventory of it and say, how did we get there, is it evolved. They kept adding brands because they were connected to us, and we represented them, and we were willing to educate their hairdressers to do that.
And they knew what education we would deliver to them.
So where we're at right now is really looking at what brands should we go forward with. There's a phrase that Robert Cromains talks about called common knowledge. And we really need to seek common knowledge in a salon. There's a synergy that takes place when you get a group of hairdressers all rallied behind the same thing. The net effect of that is a salon culture. And that's really what we're looking at trying to establish. The other way what we've established is the front of the salon and retail and take-home, and the back of the salon where the services happen.
And then you have salon chaos.
Yes. So that's kind of our challenges we're looking forward. One of the things that I asked this salon owner to do was to put a survey out to every single one of their staff members on the spa side and on the hair care side and find out what they're using personally right now. They could do it anonymously so that if someone was using brands or products that weren't sold in the salon, that they would feel free to write that down. But what on an everyday basis personally were they using? And what I anticipate seeing is, that the same people that are recommending brand A and B are using brand A and B. And the people that are recommending C and D are using C and D. So you've got kind of this mishmash of effort.
Well, it's no different. I mean, I'm a distributor. I'm not a hairdresser. But still, because we're in the industry, people are continuously asking us, what do we use? And what should I use on my hair? And I always recommend my favorites because I think that they'll enjoy them just as much. That's no different.
Now, Terry.
What?
Does everybody you meet have exactly the same hair as you?
No.
Then should they use exactly the same products that you
No,
do?
so I do say that to them, but they'll still say, what are you using? And that's not the right answer. The right answer is you need to have a professional give you a recommendation and a prescription just for you, because then you'll really enjoy the product performance.
Correct. So you knew the right answer.
I know the answers.
Okay. All right. So where we're going to wind up going with this particular salon is looking at and making strategic alliances and connections between the brands that they move forward with, our company, and their salon and spa company.
So you're even recommending, which the listener is probably going to say, he's going to say, pull some of my brands out of your salon.
Absolutely.
Well, explain that, because people won't get that.
And at the same time, I want to be politically correct.
That's right.
Because what I want everybody to understand is, as a distributor, we're responsible to the people that we're in business with, both upward and downward. We're responsible to the manufacturers in the marketplace to represent their brands, establish their brands, and have significant numbers of salons and hairdressers enrolled and involved in their products.
That's the downward.
Yes. The upward is the way we represent that to the salons, and you represent that to your guests. We have a responsibility to you to make sure that we put you in an environment, A, that you can win, and B, that you can be profitable with. And so there are times where we will recommend, we both are very much attracted to, we have one key strategic alliance of a take-home brand in a salon with maybe a specialty brand or a niche market brand added to that. But the culture of the salon is based around one key brand. From the front of the salon to the products that are used at the styling station to the hair color that's used in the back of the salon. That needs to be a strategic alliance, that your staff understands why you're connected to that brand, why you made that decision to carry that brand, and it's obvious to your staff, to the guest, and to anyone that would walk into your salon. The great example of that, one of them is Robert Cromines. Robert and his salon, whether it be the Robert Cromines salon or the ARCS, the ARCS salon, when you walk in, you almost have a feeling that this is a Paul Mitchell salon. And it is. They use that exclusively throughout the salon from the front to the back. Their staff has become educators for the brand along with Robert. And what they have is a culture that works very, very well for them. They have one voice. We have that with some of the Paul Mitchell exclusive brand salons that we have in the marketplace. And we have that with literally every brand that we represent. We have examples of people that have made a strategic alliance, have made a connection with that brand, and from the front of the salon to the back of the salon, embrace that brand and move forward with it. And it really, really is important. It's important that the salon establish that. So we're getting back to where we started. Where we started in take-home, or in retail as we called it then, was establishing product experts. Establishing a connection so strong that the stylists who recommended that brand could not imagine their guests using anything other than that brand. It's not a product that exists in a sea of sameness, where every product is the same. If you don't like this straightening balm, I've got this straightening balm, I've got this relaxing fluid, I've got this whatever. This is the brand, based on having my hands and hair all day long, and based on the strategic alliance and the common knowledge that we have as a salon. This is what we're moving forward with full force, and this is what I believe you should use at home on your hair. It's that kind of clarity that allows a salon to really have success. It's that kind of clarity that allows a salon to be profitable, because you can increase the turns that you have in your business as a result of that. And it's our job then as a distributor to make sure that we've got these strategic alliances spread across the many brands that we represent, but based on what's right for the hairdresser in the salon in those locations. So that's where we're living right now. That's what we're excited about. What we found is that as a salon, for us to make that happen at the salon level, because there's a bigger commitment to a brand, there's also a bigger commitment that comes back from the distributor and the brand for training, for in-salon events and protocols. And that gets exciting because you can actually gain ground. You can see the progress. The message is consistent. It's the same. And the one thing that the retail side, the department store side has is that they have people that think about those brands, strategize the brands, promote the brands. They've got protocols for how to intro a new product. They've got protocols for how to intro a new promotion as it comes on. They've got protocols to involve and connect new staff members as they join that organization. The cosmetic counters do a great job at that, getting people up to speed. The specialty stores do a great job at getting a new hire up to speed on a brand. And again, because what we went forward with was so confusing, we really weren't able to do that when you've got 8 or 10 brands in the front of a salon. So that's what's exciting to us right now. That's a direction that we're taking our salons, and we believe it's a direction of the future. It's the way the past has been kind of reinvented to be the right decision for the future. We had to learn how to retail. Then we had to exercise our muscle and say, if I add this line, this line, this line, I can retail more. And now we've got to refine our effort
to
do what we really believe is best.
So you've had this conversation with multiple salons of late.
Yes, I have.
So tell me, what are their action items?
Their action items, first of all, are to plan. Number one, as we mentioned, the first thing I wanted was a survey of what people are using currently. In the case where your strategic alliance is going to be a totally new brand, that's a different story. But if it's going to be a brand that already exists in the salon and we're just kind of cutting back, that's a different action item. But the most key thing is the salon owner has to ask the question, why are they involved with that brand? And it's really in some alone time, whether it be in your office, whether it be just listening in the front of the salon, sitting amongst the hairdressers, or sitting with your spa technicians and getting them talking about what it is they do. Mm-hmm. What you're going to find is that in most cases, there's an overall lack of direction. In most cases, they're going to go back to seeing someone at a show or using a particular product and getting stuck on that product. It's not a current and alive and moving forward connection. One of the conversations that I had with a salon, I took it to the extreme. And this was years ago. The salon wanted to keep adding this nail line and this nail service and this brand and that brand. And I looked at the salon owner and I said, you know what? You could sell anything. You have a place of business that has traffic. If you wanted to put Chicago-style hot dogs in the front of your salon, because you're a good business person and you're good at displaying and merchandising and asking your guests to support what you do, you could sell a lot of Chicago-style hot dogs. But is that the business that you intended to be in? You see, sometimes what we can sell isn't what we went in business to be. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to look at that and say, what are the brands that most embody my value system, my beliefs for going forward? What are the brands that support the hairdresser and their growth? What are the brands that are bringing new hairdressers into our industry, that are putting twinkles in the eyes of young people so that they want to become hairdressers?
Well, I think that's a very good point. When I think about owning a salon or having conversations with owners about education, can you imagine what it's really like to try to schedule proper education for 11 brands in the salon? No wonder staffs are reluctant to attend, because you're continually having to do the basics. You cannot take that staff to an advanced level of education when there's that many brands. You can't.
Well, this particular salon that I was meeting with, that we've referenced many times through this recording, their most strategic alliance, their biggest brand by far, wasn't scheduled to be educated for the first 6 months of this year.
That's my whole point.
Because they had
How do you get in?
That's right. They had other things. They had other trainings and other brands that either had asked first or that they felt they needed to prop up because it wasn't doing well.
Sure, because that's exactly the point. Because the salon that's carrying the brand should be the one they're educating. But because the other ones are low in sales, they feel like if they educate, they'll bring those up too. Mm-hmm. So therefore, no advanced, polished education is able to have time in front of their staff. 6 months for your top brand, and we're not educating? That's terrible. And when she saw that, I bet she wanted to die.
Well, yeah, but you see, it was uncovered in little bits, because mm-hmm. the first thing was, think of the schedule. The schedule was set. Now we identified that here, their most strategic brand, we needed to get in there and help her staff become expert.
And there was no room.
In those brands, and there was no room on the calendar. So mm-hmm. the initial feeling was that of anxiety and almost panic, like, oh my God, what do we do? And looked at me, how can you bring somebody in? Who have you got available? What can we do? Do we need to do it as part of our staff meeting? Do we need to do full days? Does it need to be on your location or on our location? What do we do? Well, it's a whole bunch of things that we needed to do that we then did put in place and have follow-up meetings to make sure that that happens. But there has to be room and there has to be time to put attention toward that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what was missing in this case. And the other problem really is, we talked about some of the protocols that retail markets have. This particular business has become a really large salon company and spa company. And it's not as easy for them to turn on a dime.
Like it used to be.
Like it used to be. And it's also not easy for them even to embrace a new product from a strategic brand that they have. It used to be very simple.
Yes, when there's 6 employees, right?
You could get them all together in one spot. You could have a quick pep talk. You could give the product knowledge and product performance, and they would all leave the back room together with that new product in their hand.
Let's talk about the reasons. First of all, there might have been 5 or 6 employees, all working the same schedules. As the salon grows, there's a need to extend the office hours. So now we've extended hours. We've got people working shifts. We're not able to be in front of them. So the anxiety of getting the message out overwhelms the salon owner, and the anxiety becomes the way in which we manage. We're managing off of chaos. There's another part to this, and that's the visual side. There's such a responsibility, such a larger responsibility for the salon when there is fewer lines represented. You almost can get lost and get away with weaker displays when you have multiple lines because there is no story that you're telling. It just looks like a flea market. Many of you have heard me use that expression before. The visual responsibility to a line that you're making a statement with must change on a regular basis. The need for displaying the promotions properly, using and taking advantage of all the literature, posters, all the visual things that are available. The lines that we represent, for example, now have DVDs that are so beautifully produced, but they're not getting in front of the consumer. They're stopping right at the salon level for some reason. If Steve and I owned a salon, those would be featured, probably multiple DVD players, so we could capture the excitement of what that line really is trying to convey to the consumer, would be playing ongoing over and over again in the take-home area. One of the things that we learned so beautifully from the retail market was selection. The thing that we didn't learn from them is how to glorify a line and make it pop and stand out. When you walk into Nordstrom, it's obvious when you've entered the MAC arena or Chanel or Ralph Lauren or Donna Karan. Right now when we walk into salons, everything is so lined up next to each other that we don't know that we've arrived into an area that's going to embrace us as a brand. Using the DVDs, merchandising on a regular basis in different ways. Maybe I would suggest that on the 15th of each month, we change the visuals. On the 1st of the month, we're changing out the promotions. The visuals are available, but we have to be as committed to changing the visuals as we are to receiving the product itself. I know that when I walk in and someone is really committed to their retail area, I want to purchase. I want a basket. I probably don't need anything, but when I'm drawn in to want to buy, there's something going on in that salon that's very, very right. When I walk in and I'm not drawn in, I would probably venture to guess that your customer isn't drawn in either. And that means the area is boring and needs some attention and commitment. This isn't something that needs to be done once a week. This has to have daily commitment from you, very much like a department store. How many staff are really behind the Chanel counter? How many are in the MAC area? Much more than we've committed in our salons. And I'm not suggesting that you need full-time staff, but we do need full-time commitment to making sure that we're always presenting our retail area in a way the consumer deserves to have it be seen.
Well, Terry, what I thought about while I heard you say that was that salons, I connected it back in a strange way to hairdressers saying that they're bored with a line.
Mm-hmm.
I think that salon staff pays attention to what leadership does with their time, what they do with their energies, what they do within the salon.
Yeah, leadership can't just staff this out.
Right.
They have to be part of it.
One of the things that I notice, Terry, if you and I are interested in a particular book or particular course, or we've gone to a particular restaurant or a new store or retailer that's opened up, it's our conversation, first of all, and then because of our conversation, it draws in a lot of our staff. If I'm particularly excited about a book, I'll walk through PSC and I'll start to see that book on other people's desks. Mm-hmm. And it'll start to become conversation in the lunchroom and in other places throughout. I think that sometimes that's a dimension of take-home that's overlooked because we've moved on to the next. There's a great line from a John Lennon song that says that life is what happens when we're busy making other plans. And I think that from a take-home standpoint, we're busy making other plans, not only with take-home, but we're busy making other plans with the salon business. A salon owner has so many different and varied responsibilities that sometimes retail is an afterthought. I had someone come up to me 2 days ago, and they said, you know, we spent so much on our build-out, and we built this beautiful, beautiful salon, but when we got to the take-home area, we ran out of money. Now that we're established, we're so frustrated with our take-home area because it doesn't look like the rest of the salon. Well, see, that's the thing. In the early days, we had to pay attention to all of it. But as the business starts to flow, we start to pay attention sometimes to the problem areas or sometimes to the problem staff members, and we're not paying as much attention to the strategic brand that we've chosen or even the strategic staff members that are responsible for the majority of profitability in our salon.
Or profitability from the staff isn't the focus, and profitability for the line that brings us the most in isn't the focus. We tend to focus on the weaker links in both areas.
Yeah. And they say that people will watch where we spend our time. And if we're spending no time on a brand that we say is strategic,
Or in our retail area at all.
or in our retail area, they're going to be bored.
Sure.
Because we're not spending time. They're going to pay attention to what we talk about. And if we're not talking about that strategic brand, we're not talking about take-home on a regular basis, they're not going to pay as much attention. They're not going to be as involved. That's when they get bored, and that's when we try and throw a whole new brand at them to get them re-involved. Because a new brand means we have to have new conversation. The other thing is they'll watch the ways in which we and the business touch them. And I don't mean physically touch. I mean touch them with information, with training, with involvement, and really touch them with a glimpse of their future in the salon. Are we moving forward? Is this still as exciting a brand? They have the right to say every day, am I as excited about working here? Am I as excited about the brand? Am I as excited about my leadership? Am I as excited about the people that work on either side of me as I was yesterday or at 5 o'clock the day before? Those are things that are all throughout those things. The last one is that the sum and total of the time and the talk and the touch is, do they trust? Have they come to a point where they've been able to trust what they see in our behaviors and in our retail environment, our take-home environment, and do I trust the people that I'm working with? And so it's not only what I see, but what I hear and what I'm involved in.
Well, the last part of this that I'm thinking about, too, from my standpoint, thinking of the consumer making a purchase, are we easy to do business with?
Oh, yeah.
Once I make the purchase, is everything coded correctly? Are the prices easily understood by the buyer? When I walk up to the front desk, is everyone proficient there? Is the checkout easy? I think even when I'm in salons, sometimes we don't know what sample sizes are. If we're displaying samples, people don't know if it's free or if there's a cost to it. We're okay on the haircut price, but the retail area still isn't as focused system-wise. So,
well, Terry, one thing that jumped out there is this whole idea of sampling. I mean, sampling could be a tremendous gain to the whole energy of retail. But it's done not strategically, it's done because there were samples available. Because I bought this package and I got these samples and, oh yeah, let's give them out. That's not really the way it's supposed to be. Sampling is such that we need to sample for a specific reason. For example, we've got a guest that's using product A, and there's a related product that we'd also like them to try, a related product that we want to involve them in, that we've attempted to sell them, that we've given them information and training on, but they've not yet purchased. It's a gift with purchase. That's a start to it. I think it's a gift with purchase with knowledge. Sampling with knowledge is a key. Sampling without knowledge is hit or miss. It's really not recommended. So we want to sample on purpose, and we want to always give knowledge when we're sampling that product. And then the return is amazing. I mean, I just sat in a class 2 days ago that said that 70% of sampling with knowledge, those people come back and buy. So what a great incentive to sample. But it's not just put it in a basket and let every customer that comes in take a sample home with them. That doesn't work. That's shotgunning the approach. And that's never going to be as effective. As we talk about the transition, maybe from where you're at right now to the vision of what we're talking about, creating common knowledge, creating a culture in your salon, and a strategic alliance with a brand, many of you have to go from where you're at and transition to this process. And it's a lot of work. We know that. Where we want you to start is by looking at an analysis of your sales. We said already, we're going to do an analysis of what's our staff using right now personally on themselves. Be careful with that, because one salon owner wanted to just run a sales history of what their staff was buying from them and think that that's what they're using on themselves. That could be for their spouse, for their children, and for their next door neighbor that they're buying that product. So that's not always a good indicator. You want to find out from them what they're using on themselves. The next step is, what are you selling in your salon? Take each brand as a standalone and look at what the top 10 to 20 best-selling SKUs are, stock keeping units. What are your best 10 to 20 products that you sell in that brand?
Per size.
Yeah, and look overall to say, what do those best products make up as a percentage of my total sales in that brand? In many cases, the salon sells upwards of 50 to 75% of their sales in a brand in one or two products. So that strategically we can move away all of the other products in that brand that sell one or two maybe every month and keep only the best sellers in that brand.
Well, the analysis will let you tell an educator that's coming in to be in front of your staff, please focus on these items. These are the ones that are doing quite well, and these are the ones that we have no movement on at all.
I agree on your strategic brand. But Terry, what we're talking about is how to look at a brand that we're going to be paring down.
Yes, true.
How to look at a brand that we're kind of de-emphasizing in the salon. And therefore, we want to keep the products or the SKUs in that brand that we do the most sales in, but kind of move that off of our horizon so that we can have a key brand, a focus brand in our salon.
Okay.
That's one of the steps. Next, we think that there needs to be a plan for a rollout of your new concept. A rollout. It's kind of a back to the future type of situation where some of this information that we've shared, you would want to put into your own words and share with your staff. They need to see you as the visionary as well in your business, and you're responsible for that culture and those decisions. So you're going to dream about your salon and about Take Home. Their involvement with product in their hands and at their stations, and what color brand we're using in the back, why you made the decisions. They often say people will understand any what as long as they understand the why. And they'll get caught up in your passion and enthusiasm for the strategic brand or the focus brand that you've chosen. People want to be part of something. And the ability, there's a key thing here, that when you focus on a single brand idea or a focus brand, you become a big, important customer to that brand and to that distributor. You become recognizable to the key people that are maybe on a regional level, or in some cases a national or an international level with that brand. You become the example within your community for that brand. There's so much value in that to you. And there's value that you have in being a big customer to a particular distributor and a particular brand. So that's one of the things, and we suggest that you really get involved in that for your salon, and you lead that and you share your vision with the salon as a result.
When you share the responsibility that you are taking on to become a big customer with a distributor or a manufacturer, share that mission with your staff. I would also hold them accountable for the information, not on a surface level, but I'd make them certify and test out that they absolutely have knowledge and expert status on the lines that you've represented. Don't let there be hiding places in your business where they can say, oh, I know what that does, or I'm familiar with that brand, or I'm comfortable with it. Test it out, because there is a difference between knowledge and skill. Knowledge, do you know it? Skill, are you talking about it? What happens if they have an A+ in knowledge, because you tested them out and they don't sell anything to the customer. That means that the choices they're making are, they're not talking about it with the guest. What happens if they flunk the test? How long are they allowed to stay on board with you where they are not considered an expert in your business? That's a decision you have to make as a salon owner.
And Terry, one of the other things that we realized in talking that day was that there's a need to cross-pollinate the spa staff with the salon staff, both from a service standpoint as well as a product standpoint or take-home standpoint. And what I mean by that is that there was hair care staff that admired the skincare brand and the spa care brand that the salon carried but knew nothing about it. So for all intents and purposes, would recommend it to their guest if they knew the information, would use it personally if they knew the information. So part of our plan of implementation for this salon was also in setting up a day and a time where the hair care staff could experience spa services and could have a one-on-one consultation with the estheticians and with our trainer so that every hair care person left with their personal prescription for a skincare regimen. And we felt that that was important. On the flip side, we felt it was important that the estheticians and massage therapists had a similar consultation with hair care and that they had their own information, product knowledge, product performance, and personal prescription for their hair care needs.
You would think this is so obvious.
But again, it's what happens when the business is busy making business.
Yes.
That if we were just starting up, if there were no guests coming through the front door,
It would be a grand opening commitment.
of course it would be a grand opening commitment. Everybody would know everything about every brand that we put in the front of the store. And the hair care people would have already have experienced the touch and the intensity of the treatments.
Because they would have been the models during the training.
Yeah, they would have been the models. And the estheticians would have already have experienced the hair color in their hair and the conditioning treatments and the specialty services that are in the hair care side of the business.
We didn't keep up creating depth with our staff as the business grew in so many different ways as it aged.
Sure. And the larger the ticket, whether it be a hair care price ticket, a skincare price ticket, either professional or retail, the higher we charge for haircut prices, the greater the expectation.
Sure.
The higher we charge for massage services or for facials, the higher the expectation. The higher price point that hair care is, the greater the expectation on all levels, not just product performance, but product presence and brand presence within the salon. So I hope really that no one's getting lost in the words. There's been a lot said on this topic, and there's a lot more that can be said, but we really want to be succinct and have you have and maybe want to dream about and put an action plan into place for your own salon and your own business as a result of this tape. We hope that you will put together a very specific action plan. Please know that the brands that you are choosing for your strategic alliance, for them to be your focus brands, have staff either through our distributorship or they have national or regional staff that's very capable of helping you plan a very specific action plan to change really the way that your take-home area looks, feels, and change the way that your staff is involved. I want to go all the way back to the beginning where we said that we've seen that the profits from take-home products are upwards of 70% of a salon's profit before income tax. That's huge. It's a huge number, but with it carries a huge responsibility to pay attention, to put time into it, and to really grow that brand.
That brings to mind my favorite quote, which I think fits beautifully here. Quality is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and skillful execution. It represents the choice of many alternatives. Sometimes the retail area can be an afterthought, or when I can get to it thought. And when Steve said we're busy doing business, and that sometimes gets in the way of us really creating a statement at the front of the house, which is so important as he's related to you being 70% or sometimes even more of the profit before income tax. Know that we're here to partner with you. And as always, we thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing, Steve.
Thanks, Terry. What I'd like to say at the end of this is that we've had our entire focus be on take-home on
Right.
this recording. And we did that for a very important reason, that it's critical to the future of your salon. The things that you dream about, that you dream of being able to do for your staff, being able to do from a training standpoint, or to be able to do from a decor standpoint, are so much fueled by the gross margin that takes place from take-home products and selling those to your clients. We will continue to challenge your thought. We'll continue to try and lead you and work with you side by side to the next level. Something I've been learning since mid-December, and I learned this from Jim Stovall, is that you can change your life when you change your mind. And certainly we're talking about changing your salon life in this example. But it involves changing your mind and making up your mind, making a decision. I'd like to ask everyone at the end of this tape, make one quality decision today that can change the future of Take Home. And we wish you nothing but the best, and please know that it matters that you spent this time with us. Have a terrific month.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have slept tonight if I'd have forgotten to share this with you. Just a couple of afterthoughts as we were talking about the content of the recording today. What came to mind was Oprah's After the Show program that she does, and we're going to tend to try and make this a regular part of our recording, especially if there's some things that we really felt needed to be shared. One of the things that I wished I would have said earlier was to ask you the question and have you ask the question of your stylists. How many of your customers, how many of your salon guests are currently purchasing home hair care or home skin care products from your salon or spa? I'm waiting for your answer. All right, it was a trick question, so please don't hate me. If you said 100% of them, all of them buy, that's the correct answer. Most salon owners or stylists, when I ask that question, will say back, about 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. Reality is they all buy products to use on their hair and to use on their skin at home. What that means is they're all buyers. They just haven't all purchased product from your salon and from your staff yet. And that's why there's such an exciting potential, no matter where you are currently in your take-home hair care sales or take-home skin care sales, where you can be is so much more compelling. So we wish you great success with that. Another afterthought comes to, what about some of the relationships that you currently have in place, either with other distributors or with other products or brands, manufacturers? How do I go about making changes that are necessary? And some of those people might be my friends. The best answer that I can give to you is figure out what your funnel is, what the decision has to funnel through for you to make the best decision for your salon and for your staff. We've always operated under the premise of that we believe that salons should do business with people from whom they can learn the most. We think that knowledge and action equals confidence and power. And so you want to look to people who will partner with you, people who will provide the proper input and training, and people who will stand side by side in the trenches in your salon to help you grow your salon. If that's us, and we believe it is, we're thrilled. If there's another relationship that's doing better for you, then you need to put all your support behind that organization. If you're not sure what you're entitled to expect as a big customer of a manufacturer or a distributor, please ask, and ask everyone. But once you make your decision, there again, make a quality decision, and you'll change your salon's life when you change your mind. Thanks. These are our afterthoughts for this recording. We wish you all the success.